Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Frankie Corrado here all hour. Scotty Vail later in the hour. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. And ahead of a big match, the pregame starting at 7 o'clock, kickoff at 8 down in East Rutherford, Canada, Argentina. And I can think of no one I would prefer to talk to than my good buddy Brendan Dunlop, who will be calling the game on TSM Radio tonight. Obviously, you're covering it daily.
That's it, man. Yeah.
It's great to see you.
It's been consuming. Always good to see you, and I'm glad that Stevie was unavailable because I know you intro Stephen Caldwell the exact same way there, but I'll take the W.
I love Stevie Caldwell, and I love you, Brendan Dunlop, Canadian Soccer Daily founder, and, of course, Copa America commentator, and you'll be a big part of the coverage tonight. So,
yeah, a couple of whiskeys and 5 or 6 beers.
Yeah, that you got to. Can you top that?
5 or 6 beers? I don't know. There should be like a crossover OverDrive day.
I agree.
I can show up with the golf cart. I don't want to play golf with you boys.
Okay,
we'll set that up.
I love that idea. And you've hosted this show before, and
we've done a show before. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly a year ago, actually, when Canada would have crashed out of the Gold Cup on penalties to the United States.
Okay,
and here we are today talking about the United States needing a drastic overhaul and upheaval with the federation because they crashed out in the group stage, and Canada's in a semifinal. Against the best team in the world.
What do you make of the complaints from the Americans? Because they're putting it on so thick on Fox about how it should be them, but it's Canada, and I guess congratulations to Canada. Like, they're such sore losers. And it's not like Canada wasn't in their group.
Yeah.
Canada didn't knock them out.
It's not like it was head-to-head.
No,
why are you
exactly.
making it personal? Why are we catching strays?
It's not our issue.
You can't get your stuff in order. Then.
Right.
Exactly.
It's
embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing.
To crash out, to be the first host nation to crash out of a Copa America. They're hosting the World Cup in 2 years' time. MetLife Stadium is going to host the World Cup final. Look, the U.S. want to go as far as possible, and they feel like they should be semifinalists at the World Cup in 2 years' time. To not get out of a group in a 16-team tournament where you're the host and it's an invitational, the pressure wasn't really on you, it looks really bad. And that's part of what makes Canada look so amazing, because when they won CONCACAF for the World Cup qualifying, it kind of felt like, but the U.S. were bad and Mexico were on a downslide. And then, look, they both performed better than Canada at the World Cup. Now we see that Canada is at that level to be amongst the top 3 in CONCACAF, and here they are against Argentina again, man.
Yeah, they are, and it's a big one tonight. And Frankie and I are trying to put all this into perspective. You know, the nature of the tournament, which is not one that Canada's generally ever a part of.
Yeah, not their tournament.
Hasn't. I mean, it's a largely South American tournament, obviously, and as you said, invitational. Canada, U.S., because of their role in 26, they're in it. There's massive tournament around the world, massive tournament in South America. It doesn't have the same footprint up here in Canada, yet it's Argentina, it's Messi, which almost is larger than life itself and larger than the tournament itself. And we were discussing this, like a victory tonight will be remembered more so than even a victory over the weekend. Like if they were to win, let's say they beat Colombia in the final, no one 15 years from now is referencing the match against Colombia. It'll be this one tonight.
You think so?
I think
they beat Colombia in the final.
Or Uruguay, whoever it's
Reg.
absolutely, I think so, because it's Argentina and because it's Messi.
Yeah.
You sell us on it seems to me like you don't see it that way.
You know what it is? I guess maybe because as a beaten down Canadian soccer fan that has been let down by this program so much, it's hard to think
actually winning a trophy
to win the trophy, and that winning a trophy would make me think about the semifinal. It would be so encompassing. This is where Toronto Maple Leafs fans can relate to Canadian soccer fans, because it does feel like the trophy's within reach, right? The goal is within reach.
2 wins away.
But there's mountains in front of you. There's a big mountain tonight in Argentina, and the shocking thing is all the pressure's on them. This is absolutely house money for Canada. And as we see, Frankie, with young players in every sport, there's such a fearlessness that comes with being young and being inexperienced and being green in these big moments. And these Canadian players, Ishmael Kone, Moise Bombito, Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, it's hard to believe Alphonso Davies is just 23 years old. These guys are riding that fearlessness, and that's why they feel so confident tonight.
Let me ask you this, Reg. Like, if Canada were to pull this off, what would have been the script for this? Like, what would have to happen in the game from Canada's point of view, and then for Argentina? Like, how catastrophic would it be for Argentina, and how triumphant would it have to be for Canada on the pitch?
Football is religion for Argentina and those players in that country. So to not win 2-0 is a loss to them. They were frustrated after that opening game, beating Canada 2-0. I think that this Canadian side, in every match they've played under Jesse Marsh, you've seen this team get better in some way. And the mistakes they made against Argentina 3 games ago, they're not repeating. They're simply not. The advantage for Canada is that field sucks. The turf is awful at MetLife. It is horrendous.
Yeah,
it was bad in Atlanta.
By NFL standards, terrible.
It's bad.
It's a horrible stadium.
Yet they're hosting the World Cup in 2 years.
New York.
Better get some grass. Argentina played a lot of long balls over the top, and they had opportunities to exploit Canada in that first game in Atlanta. I don't think that's going to work. So Canada will end up marking them, force them to play the ball on the ground. It's a bad ground, and I think that will be to their advantage. This really could be the under is the play, because this will feel like a final. Argentina will not want to take risks that they would have taken in the opener that allowed Canada to have some chances, because Canada can burn them. And yes, Canada have struggled to score goals in this tournament, but they've got the pieces that can do that. And it's not just Jonathan David. It's not just Alphonso Davies or Kyle Larin. It's Jacob Schaufelberg. It's Richie Larea. It can come from the middle if Kone starts tonight. They've got pieces, and that's what makes me excited about it. It's at knife's edge, and all the pressure's on Argentina.
Yeah, and they're saying it could be bad weather tonight as well.
Throw that into the
That
mix.
probably benefits Canada, right? Like if it gets a little bit, like if it slows, although Canada's got pace. I mean, how do you balance the two? Where, again, if it gets kind of mucky down there and a little bit ugly, who does that benefit in the end?
It's going to be physical too, right? I think there's a threshold where the temperatures and the field conditions affect both teams. It is to Canada's advantage that the field isn't great, because it forces Argentina to adapt on the fly. The weather will affect both teams, and it would definitely affect their pace. I think that Canada is, they're not going to be overwhelmed by the occasion, but I do think that as Argentina get more frustrated and, we see the dark arts come out of this tournament where they really try and get under your skin. Mm-hmm. I just hope that Canada can be as calm and composed throughout as they've been for the first 4 games here, and not lose their heads in this game.
Reg, when it comes to Messi here, how much would he have left in the tank after a tournament like this when it comes to international play? Like, is it something where Canada could be the team, I guess, that ends his run as far as pushing for championships and on international play?
Could you imagine? I mean, this is a guy that retired the last time this tournament was in the United States. He retired from international play after Argentina lost in a penalty shootout for the second Copa America in a row to Chile. He thought he was never coming back, and he came back and he won the World Cup. I do think that at a point in his career now where he's not the most integral part, he's still Argentina's most dangerous weapon, but he's not the most integral part of this team. If Canada could win and this be the end of his reign internationally, I mean, that's a story that no Canadian would have written.
Yeah, that's kind of what we talked about earlier, like the idea of, soaking up the tears of Argentina by knocking them out tonight.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the lead story. The lead story is what Canada is going to do, clearly, and the idea of this program continuing to grow and who's going to be the hero, who's going to push them over the top. But that's why when we speak of the significance of the opponent tonight and how it might have a longer-lasting effect on the Canadian landscape and the sporting landscape, it's because of who's playing. It's Messi and Argentina, where you're just not going to get the equivalent in whoever wins the other semi.
I used this comparison a couple of times. This is kind of like when the Czech won the gold medal in '98. Mm-hmm. Okay, they beat Canada. I think if you ask the Czechs, like, what game do they think about significantly, the real hockey heads will say Canada.
Gretzky, final tournament.
But it'll be remembered for the trophy, right? And I think that's kind of where Canada is now. I'm not saying they're going to be the Czechs and they're going to win in the penalty shootout and they're going to go on and win
penalties.
Gold
I
here.
like it.
But you get to penalties, you got a chance. That's the thing.
That's probably what they're game planning for tonight, is it not? Like, if you can get 0-0 back into penalties, I think you're taking that all day.
Look, penalties are the ultimate leveler, right? It levels the playing field completely. There is a lot of skill. It's not just luck, as people say, but it's the closest you have to beating an opponent that is drastically better than you. And there is a golf in class. But as we saw in the first game, it's not 47 teams. They're not 47 teams better, which is the actual FIFA World Rankings difference.
Are we crazy, though, to think that this could actually happen, Reg? Like, are we being way too optimistic, or is this like, put this into perspective, is this a realistic thing that could actually happen? Canada could beat Argentina.
Man, they're in the semifinal. Anything can happen. We've seen at this tournament. Brazil didn't even attempt to play football. Joga Bonito, the beautiful game, we didn't see any of that. It was a street fight worse than that Canada-Peru game against Uruguay, and the Brazilians are gone. So I really do think that, it's going to be tough. They're going to need the football gods, the sporting gods in their favor to an extent here. But they're not going to get played off the pitch. And even if they do lose 2-0, 3-0, I genuinely believe we'll be talking about this one missed chance or this moment or they played this way for an hour. And it's the confidence that they will take into the World Cup in 2 years, but just going forward as a program. Like, this is a turning point for the whole program, man. We're all dads of young kids, right? My 16-month-old son will grow up and never know what it was like not to see Canada play at a World Cup.
Yeah, that's the
They're
hope,
at
right?
this point now.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed. They will never fail to qualify.
But you're saying in 30 they're going to be there.
It's a 48-team tournament.
Yeah.
There'll be 7 to 8 slots for CONCACAF. There is no feasible way that Canada don't qualify for the rest of time.
For the rest of time.
For the rest of time.
I
Put on
love
a
it.
t-shirt.
That's something that I love to hear. Brendan Dunlop with us, the founder of Canadian Soccer Daily, will be calling the game tonight with Doniel Henry here on TSN Radio. Kickoff at 8. You can watch it on TSN. What we watched earlier on TSN was Spain getting past France 2-1. Who's this 16-year-old kid for Spain?
Man, Lamine Yamal.
What's his deal?
He's amazing. He scored. When I was 16, I couldn't score goals like that on FIFA.
Right.
Like, it is remarkable that he broke into Barcelona, and they're a broken team. It's they need a savior. It's always kind of those big those big clubs when the wheels start to fall off. There's someone inexplicable that comes up and
is that who this guy is?
Day.
Like what Mbappe was years ago, what Neymar was, what Messi was?
That's exactly.
Like, is that what we're talking about?
Messi, to me, is still in a different class where you need some time. But in terms of Mbappe, the teen star that's taken over and has cemented his place as a global star, Barcelona have churned out and Spain have churned out a lot of those players. This kid's going to stick, man. The things that he's doing at 16 years old, again, the fearlessness, I think, plays such a big part in it as well. But the skill, like he at 16 years old has made the Spanish team better, like the players around him.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many guys at all, elite teens that we talk about in any sport, that end up making the older players and everybody else better around them. He's making 35-year-old Jesus Navas better.
Yeah. It does seem exclusively a soccer story.
Yeah.
Like, because you see this, like, I remember Wayne Rooney coming up for England when he was young. And again, Messi, you knew he was coming. And Neymar, I believe, played as a teenager. I think Ronaldo, not the Portuguese, a Brazilian Ronaldo, I believe he played as a teenager.
Star, yeah.
Where, like Connor Bedard wouldn't have played. If there was an Olympic year this year, he's not playing. This Cooper Flag kid for the Americans who's going to Duke, he's not in contention to go play for Team USA at the Olympic Games. Yet not only is Yamal playing, this guy's an integral part in a semifinal where the guy's playing 90 minutes and the ball's on his foot the whole game.
He's still doing his high school exams.
Yeah. It's not only you're playing, but it's one thing to be on the team and, hey, it's for experience. It's another thing, like, you're penciled in starting 11 and we need you to perform or we can't win.
Yeah, it's not just you're a part of this team, get some experience, which is often the case when a national team brings a teenager.
Right.
There's always one. This guy's a key piece, an integral piece. They're not in the Euro 2024 final, if not for a guy that was born in, 2009?
I know. It's
that's
scary,
insane.
Man. That's really scary.
Are they, Reg, you think they're going to have a goal-scoring summit in France due to the lack of goal-scoring they had in this tournament?
Listen,
did you see that coming?
Yeah, Bello, let me get this in, okay? As a Portuguese-Canadian here, if France wanted to play like that, why didn't they just let Portugal win in the quarters? Huh?
Great point.
Just let Ronaldo have another chance. Just let Portugal. If you're going to put out that type of performance against a teenager, come on.
Well, and they got on the board first, too. It's 1-0. 10 minutes into the game, 12 minutes into the game, and Mbappe's dancing, and it never mattered. It never materialized.
You guys were talking about would a loss be the end for Messi and Argentina? This semifinal loss for France, this is the end of this dynasty, this cycle. France are not making the semifinals at the World Cup in 2026. They're not going to make the semifinals in 28 at the Euros.
Really?
I just think it's
4 years is a long time.
It is. And I realize
it's
it's bold is what I'm saying, because they've Didier Deschamps got them, I think, was 4 of the last 5 major tournament semifinals. But that's such a difficult thing to do, and I'm a streaks guy that bets on the opposite side. That's got to run out. And you just see the way it's turning. Mbappe still be one of the best players in the world. France will continue to churn out several. Camavinga, Tchouaméni, these guys are still be in this team, but they won't be able to match what Spain is doing next. Italy's going to be better. Portugal's going to be better without Ronaldo. I just can't see France being back in the
Italy stunk, Reg. They were terrible.
I know.
That was very difficult to watch Italy in that tournament. And not one person that knows soccer said, it actually wasn't too bad. Everyone said it was awful watching Italy.
It was bad. It was also bad, too, because, they broke Croatian hearts. They broke Luka Modric at 35. We're never going to see him at the Euros again. Unlikely to see him at the World Cup. Mm-hmm. And then they go out and do that in the last 16.
And they missed the World Cup in 22, too, right?
Yeah, it's tough to be an Italian supporter, but I don't have a lot of sympathy.
Jump on the Canadian bandwagon.
There you go.
Right? Why not? How about Canadians jump on the Canadian bandwagon?
And you know what?
Sounds like a great idea.
That's been the amazing thing, man. To see jerseys. I was out at Canada Day, and I was wearing a Canadian soccer jersey, obviously, but it was endless how many kids I saw, how many teenagers, how many dads were wearing Canadian men's national team shirts, Canadian women's national team shirts. Man, that's something that we didn't grow up with, right?
That's absolutely
And now we have
right.
our own country to cheer on.
Now we're rooting for them. We actually have skin in the game. We love it. How about the other semi tomorrow, England versus the Netherlands? I mean, Spain's going to be a favorite, maybe a heavy favorite, regardless of who wins that match.
Yeah.
I would think so, based on the way they've played throughout this tournament.
Finals are so tight. You're right. They
They'll
deservedly
be
should be
favored, I guess I should say. I'd be shocked if FanDuel had it any other way.
Well, this is the way of the English, because on paper, there was no reason to think England should have been favored to beat Italy 3 years ago at Wembley. But because of the money that comes in, England are likely to be favored or certainly overvalued in any matchup.
So how does this play out tomorrow, though, against Netherlands?
I think that England have been very fortunate to get to this point. I think a lot of English supporters would say that as well. They do have a very good team, and they're better than they had played up to this point. And you do want to play to your best. I just think that England's best, if they can actually bring it tomorrow against the Netherlands, won't be as much as the Dutch. I think the Dutch, Canada can take a lot of credit here for being that test. They lost 4-0 to Holland in a friendly a couple of days before drawing France 0-0 before the Copa America started. The Netherlands saw Canada as a tune-up to prepare them for this moment, and now they've gotten to a semifinal. Both of these friendlies that Canada played in were Euro 2024 semifinalists.
Right.
I just think with Memphis Depay, with the defensive qualities that the Dutch have shown, I think the Dutch will be too much for the English. And man, Harry Kane's not scoring goals. This team just doesn't win. And Harry Kane's not been able to play in Germany the way he plays for Bayern Munich. It's part of the reason they've struggled so much, but somehow have made it to this point.
Yeah, and there's Gareth Southgate, who everyone hates on him, yet he's back in a pretty good spot.
Yeah,
he's tomorrow. What do you say about Southgate?
I mean, he is Mr. Semifinal. That's the thing. I don't think that there's a coach that has had as much success on paper and is as hated in real life as Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty wild.
Everyone thinks that they can do the job better. Our job, coaches, but this guy, everyone in the world thinks that they could be England manager and do it better than him.
We'll see what he's got tomorrow. See what he's got. We'll see Canada, Argentina tonight. You can hear it right here on TSN Radio. He is Brendan Dunlop. He'll have the call. It's going to be electric. I mean, if the weather, what do you see playing out here? Like if there's thunderstorms and stuff, what's the protocol here?
If there's lightning, they're stopping it, right? Mm-hmm. I do think, and I've wondered this about, because we never got a justification, a real explanation for why they were going straight to penalties. Mm-hmm. There's no extra time. I think this is a TV, this is a business thing. They're worried they're going to lose the audience. They're worried they're going to lose the satellites. They can't do it. Let's just make it as quickly as possible. So in a lightning storm, you can't play.
Yep.
You just can't. It's not safe. You can't allow it to happen. So how long do they ride that for? How bad can the pitch actually be? And we saw Canada and the United States play in an absolute pond earlier in the year. It was in San Diego, I believe. So they're going to force this game through. The worse the rain is, the harder it's just going to be for Canada in general. Yeah. They're going to have their hands full, all over the place. So I'm really hoping that the weather's not a factor and they can just go out and play, have the best conditions possible, and test yourself against the best.
I love
because
it.
Finally, man, they're at a point where they can actually do that. They're not going to embarrass themselves. They're not going to embarrass the country, even if they lose.
That's absolutely true. And you're playing again regardless now, right?
That's
either you're playing for the championship.
Cancel the weekend
plans. For the third place.
You got another reason to stick around at Copa.
You got a couple of games still to come. All right, check it out. Canadian Soccer Daily. He is Brendan Dunlop. He'll have the call tonight right here on TSN Radio. Great seeing you, buddy.
Always good to see you too, man.
Have fun tonight.
Frankie, I miss you, bro.
Great stuff, Reg.
Frankie crushing it.
Excellent.
There it is.
Excellent stuff.
Reg
Thank
Dunlop
you.
doing his thing, setting the scene for the game tonight. Canada, Argentina. We can't wait for it. All right, Scotty Vail still to come. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Jay's in action as well out in San Francisco. We'll keep teeing that up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, best bet still to come. Scotty Vail coming up. Caddie for Keegan Bradley. Keegan will be the captain of the American team at the Ryder Cup. He wants to play himself onto the team. But he said now that he's the captain, he won't be a captain's pick, which is really, big of him. I would put myself on the team immediately.
That's not surprising.
Yes, I would immediately put myself on the team. And my answer would be, listen, you didn't ask me. You just said, hey, you're the captain now. Like, that's what it sounds like. Zach Johnson, I think Jordan Spieth, maybe Justin Thomas was involved in this. They basically said, Keegan, you're the guy now. And that would be what I would come to terms with. Like, sure, I'll do this. I'll take all the pressure. Zach Johnson's getting crushed everywhere he goes because of what happened in Rome. You want me to take on the responsibility? I'm playing, man. I'll be playing at Bethpage.
Fair enough, because at least you feel like you have some control over the situation. You've not just handed it off to a bunch of other guys. But
yeah.
Like if Keegan Bradley does one thing, Hayes, just one thing with this whole selection process and being the captain of this team, he's got to get away from the buddy-buddy routine. He's got to get away from what happened in Rome, where it was like, JT's not playing well, but we got to bring him because, we just got to bring him. No. Bring the best players regardless of who they are, because USA has not done well against the Europeans, hasn't done well against the world. Like they gotta get away from this this whole buddy thing. It's too much now.
Yes, I agree. So Scotty will join us here in a moment. Sounds like we're bracing for news on a Crosby extension. Today Wes Clark, who had run the amateur scouting for the Leafs for a few years, he jumped ship. And he went to Pittsburgh. I can't imagine this threw the Leafs off guard. I mean, they had to have known that he was following Dubas. It's been reported on a couple of occasions. He and Dubas have been really close for a long time, like long before the Leafs. So I always figured when Dubas went there, he was bringing Spezza. He's going to bring Wes Clark. Who knows who else he's going to bring over time?
Thing. Who else? You know what it comes down to, Hayes? Like, who had expiring contracts, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And listen, Wes, I'm sure did, put all of his time, all of his effort into this previous draft, and now you move on. And now you have a full calendar year until next year's draft. Get your scouting right and put together a team, and, good luck. We'll see what Wes and Dubas have in store in Pitt, but it sounds like it's going to start with an extension for Sid, and that's been well reported on that, Sid wants to stay. I don't know how long the deal's going to be. I'm sure it's going to have a full no move, full no trade. Of course it will. It's going to have everything, and he's going to control everything on whether or not he ever wants to play anywhere else. And I've made my beliefs pretty clear here that I'd like to see him try something else, but it's not in his DNA. It's not in his personality. The fact that he's in the conversation as being the greatest Penguin ever, like surpassing Lemieux, speaks to what this guy's done. And that answer is only there for people from Pittsburgh and Penguin fans. I can't answer that. I mean, Lemieux to me he's Mario Lemieux, but he won 2 cups. Sid's won 3. Lemieux played there his whole career. It looks like Sid will probably do the same. The fact that he's in that conversation or possibly surpassed him, speaks to the magnitude of his career and what he's done. But I'm just really curious to see what that deal is going to look like. Like, is it a 3-year deal, a 4-year deal? Is it $10 million plus a year?
I would think
What's
it's got to take
like?
him to 40. I think it's got to take him to 40 because that's going to be an even number. And you get there. And then as far as what the deal looks like, it would be, it'd be maybe poetic to see it come in at 8.7. I don't know. Like, I feel like he's played under market value for so long. And if you gave Sid $10 million, like, is that going to handicap your team more than it already is? You know what I mean? Like, that team's kind of stuck in that middle ground anyways, where they're trying to get some younger players and they're not really sure what direction they're going. Like, paying Sid his fair due at this point is not going to sink that team. So if it's 10.87 million or 10 million I don't know. It's
feels like
it's
8.7 will be in there somewhere, right?
It'll be like $10 million and 87 cents at the end, just to make it close to 10.
Yeah, I think that's based on his play the last couple of years. That's where he should be. He's played probably like $12 million player. Guy had 42 goals last year, 94 points. He's played every game the last 2 years. It's just incredible what he remains as a player and what he continues to do, and why I feel so good about him playing for Canada next year and playing for Canada at the Olympic Games in 26. But the team is old. They've missed the playoffs for a couple of years. They got a lot of holes there. Malkin's slowing down, Letang slowing down. Carlson was good, wasn't 100-point great. That was not going to happen again. It just feels like a mishmash, and he's gonna sign because he wants to stay there, and that's his right. It's all the right in the world. It's his career. It's his life. He's one of the greats of all time. Fine, stay. But I just don't see how Dubas and company can look him in the face, or he could possibly think, and I don't think he would, that this is possibly going to win again. Like, there's just no way. Like, and it's not even about like, well, the next wave. What next wave? They have no picks. They have no farm system. Who's coming where Sid is going to play the role that Mario played for him? How are they going to get that?
Wave. There's no wave. You're basically thinking if the team bottoms out by the end of Sid's career, if it's age 40, and this is very, very hypothetical. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if they bottom out and they get the first overall pick again, and it's like, here you go, here's your next mega superstar, here's your next icon, and he kind of passes it off. I don't think that happens, but he's gonna finish his career as a Penguin, and he's gonna go down in that list of players to do it all with one team. Whether it's Mario, Yzerman, Sakic, Lidstrom, like there's a very exclusive list of guys that have done that.
Yeah, and obviously he puts a lot of value in that. He's very comfortable down there. He's a guy that we don't know a lot about personally. It's a really cool scene that he was at the Canada game on Friday night against Venezuela, and they welcomed him into the locker room afterwards. Like it had a Gretzky vibe to it, but again, interestingly enough, as we know, Gretzky moved on. Like Gretzky went to LA and then St. Louis and then New York. Like he jumped around. But what he's become in terms of his post-career, like the ambassador that is Wayne Gretzky, like I kind of witnessed that the other night when he went into the room. Different sport, younger guys, and you could just feel that everyone was in awe of the fact that Sid was there. And the way he handled it, he gave a quick speech. It was incredibly classy and eloquent, like you would expect. And that's what he's learned. Like he's learned from Gretzky and Lemieux, and
he's had to though, Hayes. Like he's been the face of the NHL for so long.
Yeah.
And I would say, McDavid is the best player in the league, but Crosby is the most famous player in the league, and he's had to bear that burden for a long time. And he's like the guy's conducted himself as clean and as polished as anyone possibly could.
Yeah, perfectly. Like we talk about Djokovic compared to Federer and Nadal. Like there's been nothing, no scandals. Nothing. Like, we don't know any. He's not on social media. Like, Sid just goes about his business and is a rock star. And obviously, he's comfortable in that position, and that's going to continue because it sounds as if that extension's coming. And I think you're probably right. Get him to 40, lock him in on term, full no move, full no trade. He's just going to retire a Penguin. And we'll see if they can get back to the playoffs because they're not going to be competing for a Stanley Cup. Can he make it back to the playoffs? That would be a cool scene for Sid and the Pens. It was a pretty wild 48 hours in the golf world where reports came out, I believe, yesterday. I think it was Bob Herrig who first reported that Keegan Bradley was going to be the captain of the Ryder Cup team in 25 at Bethpage in New York. And when I first read that, I thought, this can't be real. And then it is real. Keegan's going to be the guy. And Keegan wants to play on the team. He's still in his prime. He wanted to be there like last year, and he felt like he got jobbed. I think he probably did. I think the Americans could have used him. But Keegan's going. Keegan's going to be the captain. He's a current player, and his current caddy's a guy that we've had on the show a bunch. Good Toronto boy, a good Canadian boy, big Leaf fan. Here's our boy Scotty Vail. What's happening, Scott? Oh, can you hear us, buddy?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you. Great to see you, man. What do you make of this?
How about that? How about that flag rolling in the background? What do you think about that?
That's all-American, man. Look at you rooting for the Ryder Cup team. Are you all on board now or what?
Looks like freedom, baby.
Yeah.
Captain America. These colors don't run, baby.
I love it, man. Like, what happened here? Because I was watching Keegan today, and he's like, I didn't know this was coming. How did you react when you heard that Keegan was going to be... Uh-oh, there goes the phone.
Sorry.
We got you, pal.
I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold the phone.
All right, buddy. So take us through your reaction.
Backdrop, but it wasn't working.
It's all good.
Yeah. What a surprise. I mean, when he told me a couple of weeks ago that he got the call, I was the same thing that you were just doing. what happened? Crazy stuff. I guess they were looking to obviously change things up a little bit, but somebody younger, somebody more relatable to the younger generation, and kind of out with the old and in with some new. And I get it. Keegan went to school in St. John's in Queens and spent 4 years there. So but as far as like when I was done Hartford, got finished back home, and I woke up to a message from him saying, "Hey, I need 10 minutes of your time." And I was like, "Oh no, what did I do last week? Is this the red? Am I getting the red card?" So it was. So I called him straight away, and he told me, that he had been offered the Ryder Cup captaincy, and I was like everybody else, because his name wasn't mentioned. The only time they mentioned his name is him being snubbed, and from last year's and all that stuff. So it was a shock to my system. I had to keep it a secret for a couple of weeks, which was hard. Not tell anybody, and I was like ready to erupt. And then I had heard, obviously today was the press release or press conference, and I had heard yesterday it came out, and Keegan's like, "The cat's out of the bag. Now you're free." So but I didn't need to fire away. I guess once Bob Herrig released that, everybody knew. But yeah, as far as I was surprised, just as surprised as everybody in his camp, everybody in the team. Even you read reports today. I don't look too much into it because I know there's going to be critics and stuff, and I totally get that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun, man.
How many layers of like approval does this have to go to? Like I saw like Tiger's approval was involved in this. Like how does this logistically happen for him?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that, Frankie. I'm not sure about that. I know there's a committee. On the committee, I know there's the head of the PGA of America, and then they also have on the committee they have the previous captain on the committee. And then he hands kind of the baton over, the reins over. So he's on the committee, and I think he makes the call to the captain, the new captain, and says, "I want you. You've been selected as the next captain." But as far as that stuff goes, I'm not really sure. I know there's the higher ups at the PGA of America have a decision. I know there's some players on the current. The Ryder Cup board with the USA team. I think Spieth and Thomas are on there. So they have a say. I guess they're kind of like, the branch in between the young and the old. So, yeah, I don't know exactly the thought process that goes into it. But here we are. Yeah,
here we are with Scott Vail, caddy for Keegan Bradley. Keegan was announced as the captain of the American team at the Ryder Cup next year at Bethpage in New York. And yet he said, like, he wants to play himself onto the team. So this is where you factor in, Scott. You got to help him get there. Obviously he was bummed a year ago, as I think he should be. I think he should have been on the team. I'm sure Zach Johnson and others look back and regret not bringing him. This is a different beast because he's played Bethpage so much, because he went to school there. He's a Northeastern guy. How much do you think it would mean to him, and how might the logistics work if he goes Reg Dunlop here and he's a coach, but he's also playing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how all that's going to unfold. Obviously, when I heard the news, my first, Keegan wanted complete transparency with everybody on the team. What are your thoughts? And I was like, well, I'm game for it, but I make a living based on how you play on the golf course, so I don't want this to interrupt your play. First and foremost, but I get that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to be Captain America at New York. I mean, I think it's going to be amazing. I think Keegan, I saw in his press conference, said if he doesn't qualify for the team, he won't pick himself. Unless there's a group of guys that are like, come on, you're seventh in line. You're the first wild card. I would think that would be the only way, maybe, if some of the boys pushed him, if he was like right on the bubble at 6-7. But besides that, I don't think, unless he earns his way, I don't think he'll be doing that. So, but he's got such a great team. They've kind of revamped things and put John Wood, who I used to caddy with. He's an NBC commentator. So they put him as the GM or of Team USA. So he's got enough people in place that he could do it. I'm interested to see the last 3 weeks how much golf he's done. I was gonna put the banana. I wish I could have put the banana in the bag and see if it was still rotten. See if the bag had been open in the last 3 weeks. If he's hit any balls or not. So I'll be able to tell a little more in the next coming weeks how this is going to be. But Keegan's a guy that I think this might go the opposite way, and I think he might. This might spur him on to some pretty good things. That's kind of the way he looks at things. I know him pretty good, so we'll see. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the selection process, when it's time to pick this team, like how much influence would there be for him as far as just taking the best players, not doing the buddy routine. We got to have this guy because we've always had him because he plays well with that guy. Like, will he be the type of guy that can put that aside and say, I'm just taking the best guys and no one else is getting in my ear on that?
Yeah, he's going to take this, and he's going to. There's not going to be a buddy system. This is going to be the best 12 guys to get the Ryder Cup back, and it's a big one. It's a lot on the line. It's in New York City, or 23 miles from New York City. It's the closest we'll ever get, to bringing the Ryder Cup to New York City. So this is going to be no BS. If he's going to take guys from other tours, we don't know how that's going to work, a year from now. But he's going to take the 12 best guys. There's no doubt, and he's going to figure out the whatever's best for the team.
So, Scotty, you mentioned you'll see him, I guess, later this week when you head overseas. The Open next week at Royal Troon. What do you make of the track? What Canadian viewers that'll be tuning in next week? What can we expect? Do you like it, and how does it set up for you and Keegan?
Yeah, I think it'll be great. I don't know. I heard the weather's terrible, so that's great. We like it. We like it when it's rainy and windy and miserable. Last time they played it at Troon, it was in a dome. We said there was no wind, and there was a significant difference on the draw between when Stenson and Mickelson had that battle. So yeah, we'll see when we get there. But I've got the boys over there, my fellow caddies and players over there at the Scottish right now, and they said it's miserable. Strap in. So let's get ready. Let's see what we got.
I love it, man. I'm geared up for it. We can't wait. The fourth
I got to bring the
toque
out. This is the only time I bring the toque out in the summer. I was buried, and I've got to find it quickly.
Okay, is that do you still go no shirt underneath? Like I saw you at the Masters cruising around.
There'll be layers under there. There'll be some good ski gear, Canadian ski gear for this one.
Boy, I love it, Scotty. Well, safe travels, man. Good luck over there. Congrats, obviously, to Keegan. That's a really cool story, and we appreciate your insight on this, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
All right, guys. All the best. Thanks very much.
You got it. There's you too, buddy. There's Scotty Vail. Caddy for Keegan Bradley. Good Canadian boy, even though he's down in the States.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they'll be heading over there, I guess, probably later this week. And like you said, I'm sure Keegan Bradley's been preoccupied with this. And before we get to the Ryder Cup, we get the President's Cup in Montreal in September.
That's right, man.
That's coming up rapidly in terms of, who's going to be on that team, how many Canadians are going to be there. We talked to Mike Weir at the Canadian Open, and he's really, really excited for playing at Royal Montreal, having a Canadian fan base on board and the team that they feel they can put together. So we got the British Open coming up. We've got the Olympic Games, obviously, where you've got Nick Taylor and Corey Connors, and then we're going to have a lot of Canadian content, I'll bet, when it comes to the President's Cup. So we look forward to that.
It'll also be interesting to see how Mike Weir kind of deals with his selection process, right? Because you want to have like Canadian contingent, and there's going to be like who would be qualified, or would we even know yet which Canadian guys would be on the team as of now? Then there's going to be a few captains.
That's a good question. I would think Nick Taylor would be on there, but I don't have that answer. But I would guess, Taylor will go. I think Connors would be on that team. Listen, the Canadians didn't perform that well a couple of years ago. They didn't.
Right.
But
yeah, that's true.
Now this is on Canadian soil. It's a different story. I think you got to have Canadians. You have to.
Taylor Pendrith has had a good year, right?
Yep.
Like he's kind of put himself on the map more than he
Mackenzie
would have been
Hughes
in the past.
had a really good Canadian Open. I think Max in the hunt. I don't know. We'll see. It's coming up rapidly though. There's still a lot of golf left in the season, and again next week at Royal Troon. on TSN, the fourth and final major.
I don't know how you feel, but watching that tournament in that rain and that wind, I something about it, I'm like, I don't love watching the struggle. Like I don't enjoy watching them just chop it out of the fescue. I want to see these guys hit unbelievable shots that I can't even think that I can
really
hit.
is contingent on the wind. Like a lot of these courses, that if it's sunny and there's no wind, they just torch it though, right? Like they hit the ball so far. And these courses, the only defense the course has is the weather. And so there's got to be a middle ground, and that can be the beauty of that tournament, that it can be Thursday, Friday's nasty, Saturday, Sunday's nice. And it's almost like two different tournaments, within one.
Like
which
that actually does happen quite a bit, I feel like.
Yeah. I think but it's contingent on wind. There's got to be some wind that can kill shots, that can take certain clubs out of the bag of certain players. Because as a golf junkie, I always loved that. Like, what's in the bag at an Open, where you'll see a lot of guys, just hit irons around and just flight shots, try to hit shots under the wind.
And now guys do this, like they'll hit this flighted driver, which I like. Thank God for the Pro Tracer now, because you get to see like exactly what's happening. Like guys will take out driver, tee it up low, and it gets 12 feet off the ground, and it flies it, I don't know, 270, 280.
Incredible. Well, look
wild.
at that shot Rory hit with that 2-iron to close out the Scottish Open last year, where he took it out of the hands of Bob McIntyre. Robert McIntyre was going to win it.
That's right.
And he hit a 2-iron like 200 yards. His stock 2-iron's like 275, I think.
Right.
And there was so much wind, and he just flighted this little 2-iron under the wind to like 8 feet, made the putt, won the tournament. Like just an incredible shot. They put a plaque there, actually. I saw that the other day, which I'm a big fan of that.
You like a plaque?
Yeah, throw a plaque down. Big shot, maybe throw a plaque. Maybe a McIlroy plaque on 18 at Pinehurst where he missed the putt.
Maybe we'll get you a plaque at Coppenwood.
I need a plaque.
You should be, your flight shots around there. It's pretty windy there.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of fescue as well, actually. A lot of kind of Royal Trooney vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you know where that plaque could go. I don't know.
You'll have to hit a few good shots.
I got to hit a good shot. Yeah, I got to hit a good shot for me to qualify. All right, we'll come back with our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm enticed to sprinkle on Canada. You're getting
you are.
Huge plus money. Plus 1,000 right now. Like 10-1 odds on Canada to win the match.
Buddy, $10. You don't think $10 is worth it just for a miraculous game?
I'm on it then. Yeah, I'll sprinkle on the Canadians, right? Why not? Like those kind of odds. You're not betting Argentina tonight.
Think about it. You're watching it anyways. You're cheering for Canada anyways. So it's a little added incentive.
Okay. I'm on Canada. I'll sprinkle on the Canadians. I'm gonna put a parlay on the under 3.5 goals tonight. Julian Alvarez 2+ shots on target tonight for Argentina. There's going to be possible weather issues tonight. I could see a 1-0 game, maybe 2-0. Maybe it's 0-0, gets to penalties, and Canada's got a shot. Maybe Canada gets on the board quick and stuns them. And then all of a sudden they just fall back and you defend and you do everything you can to survive. But the build-up's incredible. It's going to be just an awesome match. And you can watch it on TSN and, of course, right here on TSN Radio. And your best bets are powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and find thousands of ways to play. Please play responsibly. Must be 18+. Physically located in Ontario. So we got that going tonight. Jays in San Fran tonight. And, starting 11's out. And it's go time, man. It is go time.
I see, there's videos, Canadians, people have traveled down there. Like, in the grand scheme of the stadium, I think it's going to be heavily rooted for Argentina. That's to be expected. But it is cool to see that people have taken an interest and shown some support and traveled down there. It's close. This program is kind of up and coming, and they deserve the same kind of support that we give, a team like Portugal or Italy or England, wherever you're from, we're all kind of from Canada, so it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, and Ismail Kone is in the starting 11 tonight. So he obviously, had the winning kick in penalties the other night, young guy, but he's playing, and it's going to be a big one tonight. Monumental evening for Canadian soccer and Canadian sports in general. So we can't wait to see what comes of it tonight. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that. Frankie, good seeing you, buddy.
You too.
We'll see you again later in the week, I believe it is. And
Yep.
we're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.